And now, in studio, bringing his Midwest values from the Show Me State to the land of San Diego. He's a triple threat, licensed as an attorney, mortgage broker, and a top producing realtor who's crushing the competition. Here to deliver you what's happening in the trenches of the market. Your host, Michael Gaddis.
Welcome back to the Michael Gaddis Show on AM 1170 The Answer. I am your host, Michael Gaddis of michaelgaddis.com and frontierloangroup.com. And I'd like to remind everybody that I have 2 reverse mortgage workshops coming up at the end of this month. The first one is on February 21st. The second one's February 28th. Both of them are being held at Marietta's Restaurant in El Cajon. So February 21st, February 28th, Marietta's Restaurant in El Cajon. So my next guest is a publisher, and he publishes community newspapers. His name is Brad Weber. He's a group publisher for Mid-City Newspaper Group, and that's midcitynewspapergroup.com. Thank you, Brad, for coming on the radio.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, tell us a little bit about newspapers, because as far as I knew, that for the majority of it, newspapers are kind of a dying kind of media. Is that correct?
Well, that's certainly something a lot of people believe, and it's actually true in a lot of instances. National news, international news, things like that you can get right away online or on TV news at night. The next morning you get the national newspaper, the San Diego City newspaper, and a lot of the news is very old. However, in certain markets, in community level markets, there's no other place to get news like that. News about your neighbor, news about the local business that might be opening down the street, some events that are happening, that type of thing. It's still pretty hard to find that kind of stuff. Online's a very crowded field, so if you're looking for something local, you have to go through a lot of trouble and misinformation often. A lot of websites are outdated. People start websites, put information on there. It's not correct anymore. So the local newspaper is a source for accurate community level news.
Well, I think your concept is really unique, because what you're saying is that, for example, the Union Tribune, some of these larger newspapers, a lot of us are getting our news online. We're going and finding different news sources. We have the availability to get it. However, on a micro level, when it comes to small communities, you can't get that same information in one place. So having a community newspaper is really important if you want little local news. Correct?
It is correct, and we have a saying: the smaller you get, the more people care. So it's not just the availability of the news; people care about their news. People are divided these days in lots of different ways. Race and political persuasion and ethnicity and things like that, but on a community level, everyone's still kind of, if they live in that community, they're together. They all care about, they know they live in the community. We target communities that people are proud to live there, so we like to share that information. So it's not just news, it's kind of a sense of connectedness, celebrating, aren't we lucky to live here, what's happening, let's get together. So it's not just news, even though it's a newspaper.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that, because I'll tell you something. I get a lot of stuff, in the mail. I'm always constantly. But if anything, I get anything that's related to my local area, I immediately start reading it, because the local area has a direct impact on me. Like the national news, yeah, it does and it doesn't. But your local area definitely does. And I always want to know, hey, what new restaurants coming up? Are there any new, any type of events coming up or things like that? And it's hard to find some of those things sometimes. You get some of those newspapers out there. They're even broken down, on a larger level. Let's say Oceanside or something like that. But they're not broken down like on a level like a Bressie Ranch or something, very similar to that particular community. So tell us a little bit about some of the newspapers that you have. What are some of the communities that you're currently servicing?
Well, I've lived and still recently I've lived in Normal Heights for 21 years, and I got into this business because I got a retail location in Normal Heights, and I looked for a way to advertise my business, and I couldn't really find anyone that targeted Normal Heights. It was too expensive, or they covered a wide range of area all over San Diego, and my area of influence where I was targeting my customers was a very small community. So that's what got me into the idea of doing this. So we do an Adams Avenue news in Normal Heights. We do North Park news, Kensington news, Talmadge, we do a college area news, Hillcrest, Mission Hill, South Park. It's all these communities. We're so lucky here in San Diego to have communities like this because they're very unique, even though they're in the city. People that live in those communities love it. They wear the t-shirts, North Park, Normal Heights, these types of communities. So that's where we target.
And what type of information is in your publications?
Well, we like to say it's positive community news. We don't try and send out inflammatory, investigative, journalistic types of things. It's pretty much more like a newsletter, really. It's aren't we lucky to live here? Look at the new restaurant down the street that opened up. Here's a fundraiser. You just had Paul on with his Serving Seniors. Those are the types of things we like to tell people about and connect them with each other.
Well, you're listening to the Michael Gaddis Show on AM 1170 The Answer. I am your host, Michael Gaddis of michaelgaddis.com and frontierloangroup.com. And our special guest today is Brad Weber. He's a group publisher for Mid-City Newspaper Group. That's midcitynewspapergroup.com. So, Brad, I think that what you're basically doing is basically taking a community and basically allowing your local businesses and the local events to have a sounding board, a place where they can go and kind of say, hey, look, I'm your neighbor too. We can do these types of things, do all these different things. Is that correct?
That is correct. And you mentioned earlier about your mailbox. You look in your mailbox and when you do get something like that, it interests you right away. So we do distribute our newspapers via direct mail.
Oh, wow.
It's very unusual. Very few newspapers, most of them you'll see them around the racks in the neighborhood, whether it's City Beat or Reader and some of the others, and they're great papers for what they do. But we like to put one in every living room. The mailboxes these days are pretty empty anymore. They're not like they were 15 years ago, where you get lots of what traditionally was called junk mail. Sometimes it's the only thing in there. Our newspapers are big. They're 11 by 15. They're 24 pages. So they're pretty hard to miss. And when it's about that community, people do notice them, they read them, they're interested in them, and that's why it's been so successful so far.
Well, I would agree, because I mean, as I said, when I look through my email, I sort my mail out. When I get my mailbox, I start sorting things out. But anything that has to do with like a newspaper or something like that, I'll put it to the side, to the left, because that's the side I'm going to look at in greater detail. So it sounds like it's a great opportunity for people to write, articles that are, as you said, inspirational to the neighborhood, and also for small businesses to advertise in a paper like that, wouldn't you say?
Well, often it's their only choice for the budget. We have ads that are just a few dollars a month on a base level. So they at least have that choice to target just one community, or if they're bigger businesses and they want to go all the way to Hillcrest or Mission Hills and all the way to Kensington or the college area, they can make that choice also. But at least they can be involved targeting potential customers only where they're really going to get it from, and not waste their hard-earned money.
No, and that's what's tough as a small business owner. I'm a small business owner myself, so I know when I'm looking for ways to advertise, it can be very challenging to try to find the best avenue to get the word out about your product or service. And so it sounds like having direct distribution to so many houses would be kind of a phenomenal opportunity for any small business owner.
Well, it does work, and we're growing. We started with one newspaper less than 2 years ago, and we're in 12 communities now. And there's a demand for other communities that called me already. People that live
I'm
there say,
sure.
why don't we have one here? Why don't we have one here? Well, it takes a little work. It takes a little staffing, and it's not easy. But we're growing about one to two newspapers every month.
Oh, wow. Well, after the break, we're going to continue our conversation with Brad Weber, the group publisher for Mid-City Newspaper Group. You're listening to the Michael Gaddis Show on AM 1170 The Answer.